Om सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे। रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमू रामाय तस्मै नमः। रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 ॐ नमः शिवाय। ओम हर हर नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। Hariom everyone, welcome after a weekend break that we had last time for Deepavali. I hope you all remember this is Sadhana Panchakam class and we are on the third verse of Sadhana Panchakam. So let us chant the first two verses together. वेदो नित्यमधीयतां तदुदितं कर्मस्वनुष्ठीयताम् तेनेशस्य विधीयताम् अपचितिः काम्ये मतिस्त्यज्यताम् पापौघः परिधूयतां भवसुखे दोषोऽनुसन्धीयताम् आत्मेच्छा व्यवसीयतां निजगृहात् तूर्णं विनिर्गम्यतां संगस्सत्सु विधीयतां भगवतो भक्तिर्दृढाधीयतां शान्त्यादिः परिचीयतां दृढतरं कर्माशु सन्त्यज्यतां सद्विद्वानुपसृप्यतां प्रतिदिनं तत्पादुका सेव्यतां ब्रह्मैकाक्षरमर्त्यथां श्रुतिशिरो वाक्यं समाकर्ण्यताम्. These two shlokas of Sadhana Panchakam is meant to prepare a sadhaka for Vedanta Shravanam. And the sadhanas which are mentioned until this point, if one is able to practice even a few of them, or to begin with, take few of the sadhanas which appeal to us until this point, and if that sadhaka is able to practice that sadhana, it will solve lot of things even in their transactional life. Many of the points that Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji mentioned here will help us even address our issues, mainly at a transactional level. And the sadhaka now will be ready to inquire into something more subtler. It is like, a ground which was hard and barren before, that has been soaked, and now it has been plowed, and now it is ready for the seeds to be sown. So when we all start at whatever point we must have started, maybe in this janma or even previous janma, whenever we started our sadhana, there would have been one starting point. And then some satsang happens, something comes our way, something inspires us, and gradually our heart should get soaked, just like that barren land, soaked with devotion to Bhagwan. Bhagavato bhaktir drudadiyatam. That was one sadhana Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji mentioned. Along with that, all values and virtues, everything has come now, and it is now ready for the seed to be sown, which is Mahavakya. Anytime we feel that Vedanta is not working for me, we should take a look at these two verses back again and see, where am I falling short? Either it is dosha darshanam did not happen, bhavasukhe doshono sandhyatam, see defects in sense pleasures. Now that if it has not thoroughly happened, later it is going to come back. So without feeling frustrated or anything, we should just revisit these two verses and see line by line. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, total 16 sadhanas, 15 of them have been pointed out. Where am I falling short? When we do that, we realize Vedanta is seeping more and more. Means I'm able to come out of problems, I'm able to step out of situations quickly. Even if there is a fall, I'm able to bounce back quickly. Means mind is not agitated, less conflicts with the world around us. All of them are signs of spiritual maturity. I had read somewhere, depth of knowledge is shown by the relation we have with the world. How much we have assimilated this knowledge, that is reflected in how our vision is about the world around us. So whenever we feel that, in spite of studying Vedanta, again I have gone back to my previous habits, so we should again revisit it. Rather than changing Vedanta, we should try to change ourselves. So this was the background where Bhagwan says, let us do that plowing, and different sadhanas he has pointed out. What we had seen last time was the main sadhana of Advaita Vedanta, which is called as Shravanam. Shravanam, we had seen, was understanding that essence of Vedanta is in Mahavakya. That statement of Vedanta which reveals our infinitude, that is called Mahavakya. And listening to this statement clearly, or understanding that Vedanta or Bhagavad Gita, for example, might have said so many things, but the essence of Bhagavad Gita, essence of Vedanta lies in Mahavakya. When that understanding dawns, that is called as Shravanam. Now you might wonder where I got this definition from. This is a definition given by Vidyaranya Swamiji in Panchadashi. There he has defined, and it's very consistent with other places also, wherever Shravanam is defined. So you don't worry about the Sanskrit portion, but in case if you are wondering, right, how come this definition has come about? So then it is from Panchadashi. 7th chapter he says, Vedantanam Asheshanam. In this entire Vedanta, Adi Madhya Avasanatah, wherever you pick in this text of Vedanta, Brahmatmani eva tatparyam, that the essence is in oneness of individual and the total. Iti dihi shravanam bhavet. This understanding is called as shravanam. But what we should gather here is, as we are maturing now in our sadhana, the type of sadhana also is getting subtler and subtler. Right? Inquiry into Mahavakya is not a physical thing that we can do. All of those external sadhanas that we have done should help us come to this point where we can single pointedly dwell on this Mahavakya. So what is this Mahavakya? We saw if one of the statement in Vedanta says Brahman is the substratum of creation and Brahman is free from sorrow. Now that statement is a Vakya, but it is not Mahavakya, because it is talking about Brahman consciousness being substratum of this creation, Brahman being free from sorrows. Brahman, let it be free from sorrow, right? What is another statement? Another statement is Atman is the witness of thoughts. Sakshi is the witness of thought. Now this is another statement, right? But it is not Mahavakya because it is only talking about individual. And the other statement, Brahman is the substratum of creation, talk only about total. Mahavakya is that which brings both of these statements together. So Mahavakya will say, Tat Tvam Asi. That consciousness, which is substratum of creation, is the same consciousness which is illumining my thoughts. So that is why the teacher says, you are that substratum of creation. But now, the moment student hears, a lot of doubts come. How can I be the substratum of this creation? Right? I feel I am this finite person here. I can't even, establish some of my things even at my home. And you are telling the whole creation is established in me. So, lot of doubts will come, and they should come. But remember, the student is not ready to let go of teacher's statement or Vedanta statement, not to dismiss it as some kind of, just a casual thing which has been said, that you are this entire creation. So like this, when the student has doubt, he has understood it. Understood what? That Vedanta is trying to say that essence of Vedanta is oneness of this individual self with total self. He doesn't have doubt about what is the essence of Vedanta. And that sadhaka can explain also. If somebody says, what is Vedanta talking about? Can you explain? Then sadhaka nicely explains, there is Brahman, there is creation, and there is individual self and everything. Mahavakya is there. But inside he feels this is all, just for the sake of telling us. Actual sorrow will go from doing something else. So the solution to finding happiness is not through Mahavakya, but solution to finding happiness is through something else. This sometimes becomes a state of sadhaka. Then it is said, don't only stop at listening to this statement. Make sure that you have clearly understood what this statement is trying to say. When I say I, what does this I refer to? Is it referring to body or is it something more than that? This portion of dwelling on what we have heard, not independent inquiry, having understood that Mahavakya is the main essence of Vedanta, trying to own up the teaching of Mahavakya is called as Mananam. So now the entire statement or the entire sadhana that is going to come now is all related to how one should do mananam. Not stopping at just what we have listened to, but actually getting conviction for ourselves. Sometimes when we do decoration, right, some flowers which are put, we wonder, is it real flower or is it a artificial flower? Because it looks so lively, and sometimes there are droplets of water also on that flower. And we wonder, is that real or is it artificial? Now somebody comes and says, this flower is not a real flower, it is artificial flower. But just because that person has said, you don't believe it sometimes, because it looks so real. The next flower which is next to it might be a real flower, but both of them look very, very alike. So when such a doubt comes, but you cannot dismiss that person's statement also, because he's a trustworthy person. If he has said something, then it has some merit to it. When such kind of a doubt comes, it is said, think more about it. Okay, same thing is happening here also. In Shravanam, I have heard that I am Brahman, but I don't have conviction in that statement. I feel I am this finite individual. So when that comes, Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji gives next set of sadhanas. Okay, verse number 3 we will chant now. Vakyarthascha vicharyatam Vakyarthascha vicharyatam Shruti-shirah Pakshas-samashriyatam Dustarkat suviramyatam Shrutimatatarko nusandhiyatam Brahmasmiti vibhavyatam Aharah garvah parityajatam Deheham matirujjatam Buddhajanaihi Vadah parityajatam Vakyarthascha vicharyatam Shruti-shirah pakshas-samashriyatam Dustarkat suviramyatam Shrutimatatarko nusandhiyatam Brahmasmiti vibhavyatam Aharahar garvah parityajatam Deheham matirujjatam Buddhajanairvadah parityajatam. Now this entire verse is an elaboration on what is mananam, how to become contemplative. This is the main essence of mananam. Having heard something, we should be able to stay in a contemplative mood for the time that we want to stay in. Whatever that duration, according to our ability. Sometimes we realize that, right? When we listen to some idea, we feel very inspired, but right the next moment, something else comes and takes us away. So being able to stay in a contemplative mood is that portion of mananam, reflecting upon what we have heard. And that is where the student has to put in more effort, because at that time, support of teacher and Shruti is not directly available. Directly available means we have to rely on what we have understood. Easier way is to do it with group of people, right? Then you can rely on what others have understood also. But even after doing that, we should always take some time to sit with ourselves and think about which idea I have understood and which one is not appealing to me right now. It could be a very simple thing like taking a walk during lunch break. Right? It could be a shorter time, but in that time, we can take some idea for reflection and try to stay with that thought for that duration of time. That is this portion of Vakyarthascha Vicharyatam. Vakyartha, Mahavakya. The meaning of that Mahavakya, dwell on it more and more. But here, Bhagwan Shankaracharya is saying that our purpose of doing Mananam should be to establish what is Mahavakya, what is said in Mahavakya, and not to refute it. We can use intellect in both ways. Every point that Vedanta is making, we can use to refute it. But remember, we are sadhakas here. So this advice is given to a sadhaka. And this is where Gurukula way of teaching will differ from academic way of teaching. It is not discouraging using logic, but they say use logic to establish what is said in Vedanta. Logic by itself does not have any, its own purpose. So now I'll cover all sadhanas together. Now Bhagwan Shankaracharya is giving all ideas what are said here, right? Shruti Shira Paksha Samashriyatam means take the side of Shruti. When you do this Mananam, you might end up other side also. Make sure that you take the side of Shruti. So like that, logic doesn't have its own purpose. For example, if we are having, two lawyers debating, they have their own logic to prove why the case is right or wrong, or who is right or wrong. Okay, one lawyer argues one way, another argues another way. Now, logic by itself is not going to take them anywhere, or logic by itself does not have any independent purpose. Now, what is the judge going to do? The judge is going to take some kind of reference, the constitution or the law that is there. That will be the reference. And on top of that, to understand that law, you can use logic. Logic by itself, anybody can argue anyway, and you can prove both cases. But how will you come to know what is the real, substance there? So in the same way, when we do inquiry, when we do Mananam, the real source of knowledge is Upanishad. So Mahavakya has been our main, source of knowledge, main valid means of knowledge. Pramana it is called. Now that Pramana cannot be proven nor disproven by logic. Independently, logic cannot establish Brahman. You can use logic to disprove it also. That is why it is said, logic is encouraged, but it is something that is in line with Vedanta, in line with Mahavakya. Okay, that is the caution Bhagwan Shankaracharya is giving us here, that independently when you go to inquire, your mind will take you anywhere. Logic, you don't know where it will land you. But then he says, our journey on the spiritual path will be slower. In fact, if you use the same logic to establish what is said in Upanishads, he says this is a Rajamarga. Right? All doubts will get cleared, and keep questioning, but keep questioning with this fact in mind. So now let us take a small glimpse. This text is not talking much about what is Mahavakya and how we should do Mananam. The intricacies of that is not discussed here. That will come in some other text. But we'll just take a flavor of it, okay? We won't go too much into depth. So now let us take that portion where Vedanta has said, Tat Tvam Asi, right? In that, what is that Tvam portion? You are that infinite. Now, when the teacher is saying you, what is that you referring to? In other words, you ask the question, who am I? When I say I, what am I referring to as I? Now, this I can be body, first of all. Okay, now logically, let us see. How can I be the body? This is the question we should ask, okay? Because Vedanta is saying, I am that consciousness, right? So, how can I be this body? What I was calling as an apple, an orange, spinach, tomato before, that itself has gotten modified to become this body. And tomorrow, it is going to get mixed up with this earth again. Lot of Kabir Das Ji's bhajans are based on this fact. Maya gar se kachi. This body, he says, is something which is like the dust. What was there as what we call as food before, that gets modified into this body, a specific name and form, and again it is going to go away. Now, if I don't call this food as me, why should I call this body as me? Now, this thought, we should stay with it for some time, right? Whenever we get some time, sit quietly and dwell on how am I this body? It keeps modifying, and every 7 or 10 years, I get new cells in this body, right? Body cells regenerate, it's said, in 7 to 10 years span. So it's basically a new person who is there. What this body was 7 to 10 years ago, it has completely changed in today. So how can I be this body? So then go a step subtler. Go to pranas. Okay, there are these pranas which are enlivening this body, what we call as vital force. Maybe that is me. So there again, we start thinking, if I was prana, how could I control my breathing? Right? How could I do pranayama? The very fact that breath is controlled shows that there is somebody else who is controlling this breath. Now, who is that other person? He says, inquire there. Now you say, let us say mind. I am the mind. Because mind is controlling pranas. For simplicity purpose, let us say that. This experiment is done in Chandogya Upanishad. The student has this doubt, how am I not the mind? And the teacher says, mind is formed with the subtle aspect of the food that we eat. That is why being very careful about the thoughts that are going in while cooking the food. That is not the topic now. That's why I'm holding myself from going there. But the main point there is, thoughts are made from subtle aspect of food. That is what Upanishad says. Now this teacher does an experiment. Teacher says, you don't eat for 15 days, but you keep drinking water. And then you see what happens to your memory. So that student, is a very obedient student. 15 days he fasts. And on the 15th day, the teacher asks, questions about Samaveda, Yajurveda. At that time, they were those questions that they asked. Now it would be, which is the next class that we are going to, what is the name of the text that we are going to study tomorrow? Something like that, simple question. But the student says, I cannot remember it. So that teacher points out, this is what I was telling you before. Mind is also equally like an element, subtle element, but it is just another matter like this creation that you are seeing around. It is part of creation. It is not you yourself. And simple other way to look at it is, I know my thoughts, right? Whatever thoughts are rising in my mind, I know them. But even to make that statement, we need, some quiet time. See, mananam does not happen when we are too caught up with something. That we should complete it, and then we should take some time for mananam. Both cannot go hand in hand as much. So now, where have we come from? Body to pranas to mind. Now, when Vedanta says you, Vedanta is referring to that witness of mind, which is Sakshi. It says this Sakshi is a substratum of creation. This is one method of mananam. Like this, the teacher says, keep doing, keep thinking of what is said in Vedanta. Gradually, things will start becoming clearer. And it's a great joy when you start seeing consistency in teaching. What is said in Drigdrishya Viveka is the same thing which is said in Sadhana Panchakam, is the same thing which is said in even Ramcharitmanas, same thing which is said in Bhagavad Gita. Then more clarity dawns on who am I? What is my true nature? How am I not this mind? How am I not this prana and not this body? And maximum confusion happens with Tvampada. Means our attachment with this mind and body is so much that most of the times, no matter what logic we give ourselves, we still end up confusing both of them. That is why if you see, most Prakarana Granthas which are written are only about Tvampada. Very few Prakarana Granthas will talk about creation and Tatpada Vichara. Especially if you pick Raman Maharshiji's text, he will straight come to this point. Ask who is that person who is inquiring? So what is the substratum of that? Because maximum confusion is happening in ourselves, right? I am consciousness, I think myself to be this mind or something. So instead of saying that I am Brahman because Vedanta says so, this sadhaka has now gotten conviction with logic and clarity. How am I that consciousness? How am I infinite? Such knowledge will not get shaken. If we hear something else also, if some contrary opinion comes, it happens, whenever we listen to other people who sometimes give more, powerful logic or experiment and so many other things, person who has studied thoroughly will not get shaken by that. Okay, so this is that portion of Mananam where, having inquired who am I, Vedanta comes with that next portion. We should not forget the other part. That same consciousness is substratum of this creation. Not two consciousnesses, but same consciousness is appearing as this creation. Now, Bhagwan is giving a caution. He says, while doing this Mananam, be careful that you always take the side of Vedanta. Shruti Shiraha Pakshaha Samashriyatam. That word is beautiful. Ashriyatam. Samyak Ashriyatam. Means very well surrender, take refuge in the side of Vedanta. Wherever we take Ashraya, there we get Anugraha. Ashraya means surrender. Anugraha means blessings you call. Anugraha, what is the best English word? Blessings, that is good enough. That thing starts revealing itself to us. Sometimes, even in science, this word is used, that person is a devoted scientist. Means what? He has taken refuge in science. He can stand by that knowledge, and to those people it is said, lot of things get revealed to them. So when we do Mananam also, it is not some independent Mananam that we are doing, but doing Mananam with a sense of refuge in Mother Shruti. And in Vedanta, this thing is taken and given a lot of importance, that we cannot try to understand Vedanta on our own strength. We have to have Anugraha from Shastra and Parampara. And Bhagwan, all of them you add, that whenever we study Vedanta Vakya, if we have to remove sorrow from our life, we need Bhagwan's grace. Bhagwan has to give that right kind of understanding about that Shruti Vakya. I think this much is enough for Anugraha. Shruti Shiraha, Shruti Shiro Pakshaha Samyak Ashriyatam. That which is the side of Vedanta, make sure that you don't go on the other side. right? So take help of something to do this inquiry. And while doing this inquiry, sometimes because of our conditionings that we have, there is a tendency to do refute statements of Vedanta. That is called as dustarka. So then Bhagwan is guiding us here. He says, dustarkat suviramyatam. From this dustarka, once and for all, stay away. Samyak viramyatam, suviramyatam, sushtu viramyatam. Sometimes let us first look at what is tarka. The word tarka means evaluating different options and coming to a conclusion. That is called as tarka. You take this option or this option, third, fourth, fifth, and everything. You debate over those options and then you come to a decision. When we even go to this ice cream stores, right, like Yogurtland or something, which flavor should I take? So much tarka goes on, should I take this or this or that? Should I mix this with this or this with that? This debating is called as tarka. Means you should reach to a conclusion. You should go and actually take something at the end of the day. One form of dustarka is not to take a decision even after analyzing each and every aspect of it. That is one form of dustarka. Tarka means coming to a conclusion. So one meaning of dustarka is not coming to a conclusion. So this dustarka, Bhagwan says, stay away from. Make sure that you come to some conclusion. 2 hours, sometimes we discuss with somebody who is the witness of thought. Discussion is going on. This option, that option, this option, that option. But finally you ask, what was your conclusion, after discussing everything? Oh, we did not conclude anything. We just discussed the whole thing. So Bhagwan says, make sure that you use logic and come to some conclusion. Okay, that is this first meaning of dustarka. General meaning of dustarka is using logic to prove it otherwise. Just because I don't agree with something, I start using logic to prove it otherwise. That is also there. An example of dustarka, I had heard it from our Swamiji once. There was one king who loved this discussion on Shastra, discussion on scriptures. So he used to arrange debates in his kingdom. And he used to invite scholars from outside, great logicians, used to come and debate in that king's court. So that ensured that everybody stays sharp in their knowledge and people get, some new thing to listen to. These debates in olden days, it is said whenever there was a marriage in the house, there used to be Shastrartha. When I heard it, it was such a nice thing to think about. Whenever anything auspicious is going to happen in the house, they would arrange discussion on Shastra before that thing happens, so that everybody's mind is tuned, for some auspicious thing. Anyway, leaving that aside. So this king used to arrange debates in his kingdom. So one logician, he comes to that kingdom and says, I want to debate with your scholars. And people knew that this logician is somebody who can do anything and everything to make his point. So they started discussing something. And finally, the point came to example that we use in Vedanta. There is a shell. And in that shell, because of error, you see silver. Right? There is a shell. And because of light, sun rays, you start seeing a silver. So that example was being discussed. The silver is not there. It's just an appearance because of erroneous notion or because of the conditions that are there. Sun rays are falling and everything is glittery. That is why that shell appears as silver. Now this logician proved through logic that there is real silver in that shell. Anybody and everybody who tried to bring a point, through logic he would refute it. And he proved that there was real silver in that shell which was lying there. Just through logic, erroneous logic. Huh? Dustarka. That king was a wise man. He said, okay, you have won. So he called everybody and he said, because this great scholar has won, I give him the 1,000 shells. Because he has proven now that there is silver in that shell. So instead of giving 1,000 or 100 gold coins, he says, let us give him those shells. So you can take that silver away. Main point is Dustarka. Logic can prove anything either way. So we should be careful where we are using that logic. Okay, so what was that Dustarka we saw? First one is not coming to a conclusion, looking at several other options, but not arriving at any point. Second Dustarka is asking irrelevant questions to prove our point. Because we have certain notion and Vedanta is saying something. If it is related to the same topic, you ask that question. But just because now, that person is not able to sustain the opinion, asking irrelevant questions. That is also called as Dustarka. Example of this we see in the court of Janak Maharaj. When Janak Maharaj used to organize these debates, right? Shastrartha between two parties. One day Yajnavalkya ji is debating. He is a sage, he is a rishi. And there is another person who is debating with him. I don't remember the name of that other person. So both of them are debating. And every question that this other person asks Yajnavalkya ji, he is answering. Through logic, he is refuting. But a point comes when this other person realizes that on this topic, he is very thorough. Yajnavalkya ji, you cannot touch him on Shastrartha with regards to nature of Atman. So then he starts asking questions about Karma Kanda. He says, explain what is there in this ritual, how is that? And using those points, he tries to refute Yajnavalkya ji. There Yajnavalkya ji makes a statement that now you are using Dustarka. Our point of discussion was one. You have taken some other point, and now with that, you are refuting the main point. So that Bhagwan is telling us, stay away from. Right? What is the main point of discussion? Use that point and then try to clarify doubts. And last, Dustarka, what we saw earlier also, trying to come up with contrary meanings of what is a statement. One classic example of Dustarka is this. You said Jiva is Brahman, right? Jiva is Ishvara. So what is the tarka here? Jiva is samsari. Therefore, you said Jiva is Ishvara, therefore Ishvara, Bhagwan is also samsari. He says this is another form of Dustarka. Coming up with contrary meaning to what is actually being said. So there Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji again and again reminds us that we are not debaters. We don't have to prove our point for any other point of view. We are sadhakas, so hold on to what is being said and use thorough logic to establish what is being said. Kabir Das ji, it is said whenever people used to come to debate with him, right, to prove his point wrong, he used to not even get into argument. He used to first only say, you have won. Because what wins and loses in a debate is our own ego. In any discussion, what wins and loses is our own mind, our own ahankara. So for a sincere sadhaka, it is said, don't go in that direction. Stay sincere to Shruti, and from that Shruti, use logic to establish that. I didn't realize we are almost out of time, but now the student has another question which we will see later on. He says, are you now telling me I should not use logic? He says, no, I will tell you how to use that part also. Okay, so we'll conclude here. There are some announcements and then we'll take a few questions. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. One more point I wanted to mention, that please don't be afraid of asking questions. No matter what kind of questions they are, it is all of us reflecting together. These points, whatever we saw today, are meant for inner reflection. How we should think about Vedanta. It was not to make us feel afraid or whether my question, I don't know what kind of question it is. Nothing like that. Any kind of question. Even I also get so many questions sometimes, which I wonder how this question comes. But we should discuss. We should ask and help get clarity on that. So I'm also glad many of you have been submitting these questions, and it helps me think more than all of you. Some of the questions we'll see now. For some of us, Shravanam happens even before knowing what is Mahavakya. Hearing about Mahavakya happens during Shravanam. Is that the reason why we feel progress on the spiritual path is slow? So when we say Shravanam happens before Mahavakya, so this is where precision about the word Shravanam helps. Everything that we hear other than Mahavakya will fall under Satsang. And when Mahavakya specifically is being emphasized on, that is called Shravanam. Both are needed. That is why one of the sadhana we saw before was Sangaha Satsu Vidhiyatam. If that was sufficient, again this sadhana would not have been needed, where Bhagwan is telling us, Shrutishuro Vakyam Samakarnyatam. Listen to Mahavakya. So then what is the difference between what I'm referring to is second shloka, the first sadhana, right? Sangaha Satsu Vidhiyatam was said. So Sangaha means Satsangaha. Do satsang, which will help in so many aspects. But Mahavakya is the one which is more precise. Okay, that is how we should understand. Why do we feel that progress on spiritual path is slow? This question everybody should ask, our own mind, we should ask this question. And it's a good feeling to have sometimes. Why do we think progress on spiritual path is slow? The best answer I have found for myself is, go back to the first two verses. What we started the class with, right? Going back to the first two verses and seeing where do I need to put more efforts in plowing the land, right? That is the portion which will decide how easily we are able to own up this knowledge, how easily we are able to recollect this knowledge, and also when a situation comes, how comfortably we are able to apply this knowledge. This question Arjuna asks in Bhagavad Gita to Bhagwan. He says, I don't have any desire for this world and all this riches and everything. And you have already told me that knowledge is the supreme most thing that I should have. So then why this karma? And one answer Bhagwan gives there is very interesting. He says, even if you don't want other things, you want stability of knowledge or not? You want this knowledge to seep in you? So then Bhagwan says, if you want that, you do karma yoga here. All the sharp corners which are there of my personality, that I should be able to take care of with those sadhanas. Then we will realize mind is getting more obedient. And that obedience of mind is what we call as progress in sadhana. Right? Being able to accomplish things that we value. Spiritual things, of course, but even in our day-to-day life, being able to do things that we value. Otherwise, we do things that mind wants, right? So that also will be one sign. This question is regards to the japa that we had discussed about Omkara japa, is it okay for one to do Om japa as well as Om Namah Shivaya japa? For example, start with Om Namah Shivaya and after some time switch to Om. Or morning you do Om japa and evening you do Om Namah Shivaya. There are two aspects, to this question. One is whenever we think about switching, right? It could be switching mantra, switching Ishta Devata. We should be very careful because that is also mind at play. The same mind whom we want to make obedient through these sadhanas, of japa and devotion, that same mind is starting to play another trick now. So moment we start one japa, it starts saying, oh no, we should, that deity might be, that mantra might be more effective. So then, that mantra we start. And after some time, another mantra. So the most important point here is whichever mantra we are doing japa of, we should develop closeness with that deity of whose mantra we are doing japa. Either it is Lord Shiva, Bhagwan Rama, any deity of whose mantra, any Bhagwan of whose mantra we are doing japa, right? Towards that Bhagwan, we should find that closeness. And different names are of the same Bhagwan. In Om Namah Shivaya, Om is already included, right? Which is that other japa that we are trying to do here. So best is stick with one. Whichever we connect with, if we are doing it sincerely, strengthen that same japa rather than adding something new. That is why when we saw what is the nature of Om, you can replace Om with Bhagwan Krishna also. Right? Nature of both is the same. But let us say for some reason we want to do both. So it is said, okay, that is also fine. Second option. First option was better to stick to one. Second option is if morning one japa we can do, evening different one, then that is more preferred rather than doing one after the another. Right? If you do Om japa and then suddenly start Om Namah Shivaya, rather than that, do different times. And why? What is the reason? Because mind takes some time to settle in that particular japa. Right? If you have done only Omkara japa, let us say, for 15 minutes. So by the time you have settled in that sadhana, it takes, some time. It takes some days, some months, some years. Now, suddenly, if you bring something else after that, then again, that thing gets a little shaken. So best way is we stick with one. But if for some reason we want to do both, you can do it at different times. That is more beneficial. So this question also is related to the first one. Isn't it only in Shravanam that we learn what is sadhana and how to practice it? How can one do sadhana before Shravanam? It is Shravanam that guides us on the practice of sadhana and gives us faith in the benefit of practicing it. So here also, we should distinguish satsang from Shravanam. Right? Whatever gives us knowledge about all sadhanas will fall under the portion of satsang. Whatever is precisely giving us knowledge of Mahavakya, that will be called as Shravanam. Okay, then I think both these things will get clearer. That there is satsang which is happening in between the specific portion is called as Shravanam. And satsang will include all other topics. Okay, that way we can look at it. And there is one last question because we are not meeting next. I'll just finish this quickly. I have a question about Dvaita philosophy. I understand Upanishad helps with realizing Advaita Darshana. Don't the Dvaita philosophers also believe in Upanishad? Or how do they interpret Upanishads? This is true. All Mahatmas whom we have, right, whom we call as Acharyas of their Darshanas, everybody has looked at Upanishads only. But within Upanishads, the difference came about in how they looked at Upanishad. Which statements they have given more emphasis on and which statements they have considered as secondary. That will decide what ended up as their core philosophy. So there are many statements in Upanishads which talk about duality. But there is something called as Prabala Shruti. Prabala Shruti means even within statements which are made in Upanishad, there are some statements which are more powerful than other ones. So these are the discussions which are taken up in Bhashyas of Shankaracharya ji. Whenever he sits down with an opponent is not only to dismiss, right, that person, but all these minor points, the sentence that they have taken as fundamental, statement that Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji is establishing to be fundamental, that discussion happens. So like that, different branches of philosophies come about. But one thing we should note in all this, when we think about different philosophies, right, we should be gunagrahi. Gunagrahi means one who is able to gather the good things in all philosophies, rather than trying to find faults with different darshanas. The point is to say, what can I learn from that darshana? Right? So even Dvaita philosophy, there are so many things to learn. The emphasis given on sadhana, disciplined life, all those aspects, we should gather even from Charvak, materialist. During the camp, we will touch upon it a little bit. That even materialist view, we cannot dismiss it completely. We need not subscribe to it fully, but we should know what to take from it. Having known our philosophy, all other philosophies will help us, come together. Okay. All right. Hari Om everyone, and have a good long weekend. Those of you who can join us for this Thanksgiving retreat, I look forward to seeing you all there. But if not, then I'll see you week after. Okay, and there are a couple of questions which I have noted down. If you get more, even to refute anything that has been said now, please feel free to email. That helps me also know and connect with all of you and see, where we are with this discussion. Okay, Hari Om everyone. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om.